All right, y'all, we're here. We are here. We're only a few days away. Grasso looks ready. Shevchenko looks ready. And I know I'm ready. I know Shevchenko has something to prove and she wants that belt back. But let's be honest, Alexa Grasso is still the most trouble that Valentina's faced at 125. Now, scratch that. She's the most trouble that Valentina's faced in her career, period. And on top of that, Grasso is still growing as a fighter. I know a lot of people think that I'm not a fan of Alexa Grasso, but come on, as a boxing fan, I've always been a fan of Alexa Grasso's style. You know, the crisp combinations, the footwork, the timing, all of that, man. I think she's an exciting fighter. I just never felt that she would finish Valentina in the fashion that she did ever in her career. Even when she moved up to 125 in her first fight, I was like, I just don't see it. But hey, she proved me wrong. She proved me wrong and made me an even bigger fan. So just like I did for the Bullet, I'm going to drop my top 5 favorite fights for Alexa Grasso. So here it is, my top 5 for the flyweight champion, Alexa Grasso. All right, number 5, Karolina Kowalkiewicz. All right, at this time, Karolina was still in the top 10. Alexa Grasso was number 13, and Alexa was looking to make a big statement against a top 10 fighter, one that challenged Joanna a few years before this fight. And she did. She made a good statement. You know, this was an example of Grasso's crisp boxing. Karolina come for brawling style, played right into Grasso's kickboxing, right from the jump. Grasso found a rhythm, landed some beautiful left hooks and right hands to Karolina's chin. The first round alone, Grasso was able to land a variety of shots to the head and to the body. I thought a finish was coming because the way she was landing these pretty shots. I mean, jab, left hook to the body, kicks to the body, to the head. Karolina was just taking all these shots. Grasso's movement in this fight, it was just on point. The way she could pivot out and just pop Karolina at will and just step back out of range. Grasso just did a really good job of exposing Karolina's lack of fundamentals. Because early on, Karolina did well in some of her fights, even against like Rose, you know, but as time went on, her fundamentals were getting exposed. And in this fight, they really were. I mean, Grasso at this point wasn't really well-rounded as she is now, but her dedication to her stand-up has always been solid. So definitely one of the fights that made me recognize she's got some of the best footwork in WMMA, in MMA, period. All right, my number 4 fight is from Invicta FC 18, Jody Escobar. This was one of the early fights from Grasso that put me on their game. You know, me being a boxing fan, huge boxing fan. It was definitely entertaining seeing Grasso use her combinations, lateral movement, and a stiff jab to just dominate in this fight. Escobar, she's tough, strong, put a lot of pressure early on Grasso, but Grasso did well using elbows, head control, knees to slow Escobar down. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I used to sleep on Grasso's inside game, but if you go back and look at it, it was underrated. The way she controls and lands shots on the inside and moves girls around. You know, she was physically strong early on at 115. But in the second round, Grasso used the range to pick Escobar apart, using the jab in the right hand and a lot of power strikes. By the third round, Escobar looked like she'd been through a meat grinder. Just dominant boxing, man. Dominant boxing clinic from Alexa Grasso. Early Grasso was still fun to watch. I remember watching this one with my mom and her be on the edge of her seat, loving it. All right, my number 3 fight, Macy Barber. This was Alexa Grasso's second fight at 125. Barber was number 10 at the time, and Grasso was number 15. Grasso's growth, it was really present here in this fight. I knew technically she was sharper than Barber, especially on the feet, but other elements like strength, control, and groundwork were really looking good for Grasso in this fight. Surprisingly, a lot of the clinchers favored Grasso as well. That's why I said Grasso, she always had decent control in there, but in this fight against a bigger Barber, I mean, it was just impressive. You know, she was handling Barber well on the inside, just wearing Macy Barber down every time she tried to clinch up with it. But again, it was Grasso's boxing that always outshined. The way she was tagging Barber and taking Barber's best shots showed how tough a boxer she is. Like, she can give and take. The right hand, left hook combination she put down the pipe was some of the best strikes I've seen from Alexa Grasso. But again, seeing Grasso actually reverse the takedown from Barber and go through a few submission attempts, several submission attempts from arm bar to rear naked choke on Barber, was proof that her BJJ was coming in line. It was falling in line. Grasso's grit through the third proved there's a lot of heart in her, and she's grown since her early fights. I like to revisit this fight every now and then just to see some of the sharp exchanges from the two and just seeing Grasso handle Barber's power and put on a solid performance. All right, in my number 2 fight, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2. Even though I thought Valentina Shevchenko won the second fight, Alexa Grasso really made a good showing of herself this time around. It wasn't the performance like the first fight, but Grasso carried herself in a way that got Valentina Shevchenko's respect every round. Grasso, she had a rough first round, but I thought she landed some significant strikes in there, like the right jab, and being able to escape the takedown and rear naked choke from Valentina had to be discouraging for former champ. Grasso's timing and her footwork were really a big issue for Valentina again, making her wait and overthink. Grasso proved to have that rhythm down when she stepped in the second round with the left hand, followed up with a right hook that sent Valentina rolling. Grasso, she tried to go in for the finish, but she did end the round with some serious work. I think in the third and the fourth, it was tight. Grasso did have some good moments in the third, landed some good knees, showed that physical strength in there again. The fifth round I know was controversial, but this is the round where Grasso almost repeated history and almost finished Val, so I can kind of understand why they gave her that round. She couldn't get it done, but she made a good showing of herself. Grasso did enough to secure a draw, keep the belt. I had to put this one on here because even though Grasso didn't win, she was still in this fight, and she was showing more courage and grit than anyone has in the past. And she was showing that, hey, I've come a long way. All right, my honorable mention is Viviana Araújo. Now, this one could easily be on the list as well. Like I said, sometimes these favorite fight lists, they shift around, but I had to put this one on here some way, somehow, because I thought this was another good showing of technique and skills and strength from Alexa Grasso. Again, she proved me wrong because I picked Araújo going into this fight. But when it came down to it, as the fight played out, I could see that Alexa Grasso, she was in full control as far as her boxing, just keeping the timing down of Araújo. Araújo, she kind of gets into a realm of using just speed and that athleticism, and even depending on her power. Even though she hasn't really hurt or knocked out many girls at 125, she still swings for the fences too much. And I believe that Grasso just got that timing down and was just able to use her jab and just pick apart Araújo in this fight. Now, it wasn't an easy task for Grasso. Araújo did have her moments. There was a couple of moments where she did land some shots straight down the middle, and she kind of buzzed Grasso. I can't remember if it was in the third or the fourth round now, but there were some thudding shots landed from Araújo when they did stand and bang. But again, another good showing from Grasso, good showing with her chin, her grit, that she can go in there, she can dish it out, and she can also take it. So yeah, Grasso proved again that she deserved to be on this level. She's been putting in the work, and yeah, proved me wrong. All right, and my number 1, of course, Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso, number 1. I mean, going into this fight, y'all know my pick. Y'all knew who I was picking. Shevchenko all the way. I thought she was just too much for a fighter that wasn't highly ranked at 115, but Grasso proved me and many people wrong. I can't lie. Grasso's cage walk, it did remind me of Joanna Rose or Ronda Holly. I kind of felt something in my stomach, like something crazy was going to happen that night. But I said, nah, Grasso ain't going to execute. Wrong. From round 1, Grasso used her boxing fundamentals in a way MMA fighters are supposed to. The whole stance switch, the southpaw, it was a nightmare from Shevchenko right from the jump. Shevchenko never been hit clean like that before, and how she reacted to it, that was the table turner in this fight. Shevchenko, she's used to opening rounds, dictating the pace, counter punching, and just keeping that range and landing when she wants to, getting in and making the fight happen when she wants to. But here, she had someone who was sliding in and out, switching stances, and cracking her with solid shots. So the first round, I think Grasso hit Shevchenko harder and more solid than Amanda Nunes or anybody. As y'all know, Valentina wasn't completely outgunned or outmatched, but even with the takedowns, Grasso was still always awake on her back. You could tell Grasso really studied Val's game plan when she's on top. When she's in that top position, Grasso knew how to scramble out. Fight really got interesting because, Shevchenko knew Grasso was trouble, but she didn't really have that adjustment. She just didn't really have that solid adjustment. Every now and then, she would start popping off jabs or going for the takedowns, but she was still looking for those fancy moves. Like, she was really looking for those fancy moves to try to end Grasso right then and there, but that wasn't smart. She had to go back to the basics. But again, Grasso's footwork and just the way she could land with those solid shots was kind of throwing her off, I think. You know, Grasso pushed Valentina and made her jab more than usual. And at that point, Grasso was still landing those hard, solid shots. Going into the fourth round, Shevchenko was up 2-1. She was up 2-1 going into the fourth, but the champ at this point was starting to slow down because she was having to wrestle more. But at this point, Grasso, you know, she had already been studying a lot of Shevchenko. She saw a lot of the strikes and takedown attempts coming. She was stuffing the takedown attempts in the fourth round. So that was kind of frustrating to Valentina. So at this point, Valentina tries to go for one of those spinning back kicks again. And Grasso, she dives in and she gets Shevchenko's back. And she's going in for that rear naked choke. And boom, right there, she got the finish. So I was like, oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, I know who I picked in this one too, but that's what makes it one of the best fights of Alexa Grasso. One of my favorite performances from her, because I didn't see this coming. You know, I don't like to be able to predict and be right with fights. I like to be wrong because that means somebody's stepping up their game. And Alexa Grasso, she proved it. You know, she moved up, gained a new focus, fought her way to the belt, and earned every bit of it. So much respect to Alexa Grasso. Definitely had to go down as one of my favorite fights of hers and probably in WMMA. So yeah, that's my top 5 for Grasso, along with an honorable mention. Fight night is only a few days away now. So yeah, man, I hope we get another performance like this from Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. But guys, let me know, what are y'all's top favorite fights from Alexa Grasso as well as Valentina Shevchenko? Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe. This is Combo Breaker 99.